I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a House Oversight Committee hearing on Wednesday, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley spoke about mass shootings in America. The Massachusetts Democrats spoke out against arming teachers and militarizing police in schools. Pressley said that a police presence in schools can make, quote, many students feel less secure. Take a listen here.
And the gentlelady from Massachusetts, Ms. Pressley, is now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses here today, especially our survivors, those who shared their pain, their grief, and their trauma. I really do look forward to a day where our families and our children like little Maya, will no longer have to relive their trauma simply to compel action. Because only in America do we normalize mass shootings and the trauma left behind. Now, when a partner loses a spouse, we ascribe the word widow or widower. When a child loses their parent, we use the word orphan. There is no word to describe a parent who has suffered the devastating sorrow of losing a child. The unimaginable pain, grief, and trauma of burying your own baby. It just goes against the natural order of things. And with gun violence now the leading cause of death for children in society, now we're searching for a word for what do we call a surviving parent who has been robbed of their child due to a massacre. Only in America. So whether it is our babies learning in Uvalde, our elders grocery shopping in Buffalo, or neighbors in my district, the Massachusetts 7th, whose experience don't always make national headlines, but do deserve just as much attention, it is long past time to treat gun violence as the public health crisis that it is. We must do something about these damn guns. And yet, predictably, some are resorting to deflection and distractions, touting failed policies that do more harm than good, like arming teachers and militarizing police in our schools. Ms. Pringle, very eloquently earlier today, you said, we need resources, not revolvers, in our schools. But yet we've spent $1 billion over the last 2 decades to grow our school police. Ms. Pringle, in your experience, does adding more police to schools end mass shootings, yes or no?
No.
I completely agree with you. And so do the majority of experts that have studied the impacts of police in schools. Chairwoman, I ask for unanimous consent to enter the following documents into the record. 2015 study titled Preventing School Violence, Assessing Armed Guardians, School Policy and Context. 2019 report titled Cops and No Counselors. And a series of letters from the Federal School Discipline and Climate Group and more than 500 community-based organizations on the need to end the mass policing of our students and instead invest in trauma-informed services that make our schools and children safe.
Without objection.
Since Columbine, our country has approached the problem of school shootings by funding school police. $1 billion, thousands of school police officers, when 90% of our students can't access a school nurse, a social worker, or a guidance counselor. And more than 2 decades later, we find ourselves in the same spot as before, only in America. So instead of contributing to safety, the data shows that police in schools can have the opposite effect and actually result in making many students feel less secure. Ms. Pringle, what have you heard from educators and students about police in schools, especially from students who are Black, brown, LGBTQ, or disabled?
Our teachers, and in fact all of our educators, are focused on making sure that they create a safe, welcoming environment for every single student. We know that our Black and brown and indigenous students are disproportionately impacted by the inequities in every single social system in this country.
Ms. Pringle, I'm sorry, I'm going to reclaim my time because I'm losing it here.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. Just yes or no, outside of more police, some have recommended arming teachers, hardening our schools, and even constructing schools so that they only have one door. Is this a good idea?
It's turning our schools into prisons. That's never a good idea.
Thank you. This is not an issue of the architecture of our schools. It's about the foundation of our country and whether we care about our people, our children, more than guns. Every single life robbed by gun violence mattered. The 87-year-old at Bible study, the 27-year-old walking down the street, the 7-year-old learning to read, all had lives to live and dreams to achieve. Only in America do we consider arming teachers while failing to pay them a livable wage. Only in America do survivors have to go and start GoFundMe pages to afford mental health and trauma supports. Only in America do we expect survivors who have barely buried their loved ones to make the case for policymakers to save lives. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields